Welcome to episode 234 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing filmmakers Jamison, LoCascio, and Adam Ambrosio. They are East Coast filmmakers who just finished a feature film called Sunset, which is an ensemble drama about a bunch of people as they grapple with the possibility of an imminent nuclear strike. It's another inspiring story about two guys who are out there making things happen for themselves. We talk through their careers, how they got this film off the ground, and kind of their production company as well, how they got that all set up. So stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 234. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I am interviewing filmmakers Jamison, LoCascio, and Adam Ambrosio. Here is the interview. Welcome, Jamison and Adam, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking with me today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thanks very much. We're happy to be here.
No problem. So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business? And maybe to start, Jamison, you can just give us like a 2-minute overview, and then Adam, you can go after that, and same thing, just like a 3-minute overview of kind of where you're from and how you got into it.
Yeah, so I actually was making a lot of films and a lot of little things by myself when I was in high school and everything else. And I always sort of had the dream of producing films. I figured I was going to go into more of the business side of it. And I had a gentleman that was a teacher of mine. His name's Ambrosio. He's been very big and influential in my life as a mentor and a friend. Pulled me aside and said, you should really figure out how to make movies yourself. That wound up being really the turning point for me, saying I think I could take my, the little movies and the little things I've been putting together and try to, maybe do something that's more valuable or that has more of a message to it, and really start trying to tell stories that were important rather than just more like, things for fun, I guess, so to speak. It went from a hobby to, let me see if I could make art, I think, is really what it was, and I just transitioned then.
And maybe you can talk about that transition. What are some of the specific steps you took from going to filmmaker hobbyist to actually turning it into a career?
Oh yeah, sure. So I went to Montclair State University. I was going there originally. My plan was to be a business major. I live in New Jersey. We all do, actually. So I transitioned into the filmmaking department. I happened to have a lot of little films from high school. I made a 40-minute film that was kind of epic and grand. We did a little premiere for it, so I was able to show off some of that. That got me right into the film program. And I just started making shorts with Lewis and also with Adam. Adam came in. He's a film composer, and that's really where we both started working together. He wound up being a great collaborator in that realm, and you work so tight knit on these teams that you wind up wearing a lot of different hats. So I think that's really where Adam then came into it as well. We went out and did something very unique, which I think is I think it's unique, which is that we took my student film projects and really promoted them. We went out and did film festivals with them. And we didn't say, oh, let's get this class project done. We all said to ourselves, we're going to use the equipment to make the equipment the school was giving us at the time. to make professional short films with absolutely everything in our power and ability, not budget-wise, but in terms of let's tell stories that we think would get us noticed to some degree. Like tell stories that we feel strongly about, but you can see them working in sort of a commercial realm. So we did one about a middle-aged woman. We did one that was a thriller. We did one that was actually a superhero movie. You know, we tried different genres really as a way of building up a portfolio and pushing the limits of what could possibly happen. And I was thankful that my school let us take out that equipment until we then transitioned into becoming a production company as well. Excuse me. So we actually then went out and purchased some equipment and built the company from the ground up and just really started making shorts with our own equipment until we then first made our first feature as well, which is The Depths, which I can go into, which is like a whole other saga. But that's really how that transition happened.
Okay, perfect. Adam, why don't we get a similar kind of take from you? What's your background and how did you get into the business?
Well, excuse me. My dad is in the industry, and he's been a manager for actors, casting directors, and whatnot. And so I've always been around it ever since I was a kid. And plus, I love movies. I mean, when I was a kid, that was the one thing that I could do all day was watch movies, and I did. And so, you know, as time went on, you know, my dad started teaching. He taught at Montclair State. And I must have been, I don't know, probably about 20 years old or so, 21 or so. And I was into music. And my dad found Jamison, and he knew he wanted to be a filmmaker. So they started working together. And because I was into music at the time, Jamison and my dad said, you know, Adam, how would you like to, you know, compose for films? What would you think about that? And initially I wanted to just be in a band and, you know, just play rock and roll and whatnot. And then I just on a whim, I said, yeah, I'll try it. You know, I've never done it before. It seems pretty hard. And so I started working with them, and we made a few shorts, and then we made a film called Midnight Catch. And that's where, you know, it kind of started with the composition, movie, the music stuff. And I started liking it. And so we really kind of developed this, you know, friendship, and we really just started cramming things out because Jamison was so good at writing a script. My dad knew a lot of the business end to it, and I could compose some music for it. And so it's three pretty hard, you know, things to do, and we could do that efficiently. So we eventually, you know, just created this a big team. And after that, you know, I started getting interested in producing and also, you know, learning what my dad was doing because, you know, I'd like to take over one day and, you know, do my own thing. So we've been doing that. I've been learning more about it, producing and the sets and, you know, how to deal with people and just all the backline things that you don't really see or hear of, you know, with the entertainment industry.
Yeah. I'm curious about the production company you guys have started. I've had a number of people over the years, I would say they have a similar sort of story to yours where they start a production company. How did you actually get that started? And what is the work like early on when you're starting a production company? What does that work look like? Are you literally filming weddings? Are you getting infomercials? What does that work look like? And do you think ultimately that helped you sort of get into producing fictional content?
Oh yeah, I think that's a great question actually, because I think it's actually a really challenging one, especially today, I would say, because the thing is, with the technology and everything that people have available to them, they sometimes don't see it as, oh, we need a team, we need a strong team to come in and do our video content and stuff like that. So there's a challenge to that. Yeah, what I would say is, you know, it was a big risk that we took at first. I went and started gathering equipment. You know, we went out and bought a Blackmagic cinema camera, and we went out and got sound equipment. I mean, we really purchased everything outright. The risk, you know, it was a risk. What we wound up doing was, we started getting some side, you know, little jobs. doing a bunch of things. You know, your family and friends is a good way to start at first. I think that's really kind of the way we branched out. Then we started, you know, we did like some music video content. I did a couple commercials and stuff like that. And we did do weddings, and we really started. That was kind of the way of, you know, getting past that period of, okay, we just laid out capital to purchase equipment to make movies, but we have to get over the hurdle of, like, let's get back to zero again, and then make a movie. You know, so that was really how, we fought through that period. It was definitely a challenge, but we got lucky, I think, in the way of you know, working very, very hard. We got lucky in the sense that people, we just started knocking on doors, so to speak, and we happened to get in with a few event planners who I think I shot like 5-6 weddings in the course of only a couple months out of nowhere, and that was like right after we started purchasing all the equipment and everything else. So. You know, that's really how we put it together. And, you know, the complexion of the company always is changing, you know, of what we wind up doing. And when you're making a feature, I think one of the hardest things is that you have to sort of bring those other elements of the company to not a halt, but you have to sort of figure out how to sideline them. And that's probably one of the most interesting and I would say very challenging parts of having a company, and also trying to produce features. It's almost like being absent or needing to be absent from that realm of, you know, hustling and everything else and knocking on doors, which is really mostly what having a production company is, I think.
So let's dig into the depths. Your first feature. Maybe you guys can talk about that a little bit. What was that film all about, and what did you guys do with it once it was done?
Yeah, so The Depths was an amazing experience. I mean, it really was, and it was definitely life-changing, I would say. What we did was we used all of the, you know, all of our tricks and all of our tools and everything else into, you know, we leveraged all of that into saying, let's use everything we have and all this experience now, these years of experience now, to try to make a feature. And it was a very long and challenging process. Yeah. And one of the things that, you know, we just stayed with it, I think, was really the most important thing. I was studying a lot of noir films at the time, and I was hooked up with another screenwriter as well, Robert Spat, and we sat down and wrote the script together. That took us longer than it should have, to be honest with you, retrospectively. But you know, Robert's a great writer. The whole trick was us meeting, because we wrote the entire script together over Skype, which I think is a weird way of doing it, but it worked for us. You know, two very different schedules. So we wrote it together, and we were very happy with the script ultimately. We were able to raise the money, which is probably was definitely one of the more challenging parts, but people had known us we really had a strong body of work already with the shorts, and the shorts went all over the country. You know, we were in LA Shorts Fest, we were in New York, Los Angeles, we were all over the place with the shorts. So that gave people that gave us the credibility that if we went to someone that knew us or not, we could say, you know, we're filmmakers and we're trying to do this next thing. What then happened is we got actors involved who were very strong. Michael Rispoli was actually Adam's suggestion at the time. This is more when Adam was a composer, but was always working with us, you know, on the various elements of production. I mean, he was living it every day virtually. So he went to us, you know, we should think about Michael Rispoli. We then had a great casting director as well, Judy Henderson, casting director of Homeland and a million other things. And I met with him, and Michael was great and wound up really defining what I think The Depths is, as did Patch Dara, who plays Mickey. And, you know, we went out there, we did festivals, and we did everything, you know, to, you know, it's an interesting experience making a movie, I guess, in the first place of making a feature, but doing, you know, finally then landing on a distributor and everything else is actually probably just as hard as financing it in the first place. We actually then again landed in a great place. We were able to partner with Random Media, and the guys at Random Media, who's Eric Doctorow, Don Rosenberg, and that entire team, and they're linked into Sony and The Orchard as well. So our distribution is with all of those guys, and it's now on Amazon, iTunes, it's Fandango Now, DVD. So we really had a wide distribution, everything except theatrical, really.
Yeah.
So, which was a dream come true because it was a really difficult process.
Yeah.
But it's good that it paid off.
Yeah, no, we're very proud of that team, that distribution team, because again, it's just as hard as putting the movie together in the first place as finding that part. It's like starting over almost.
Yeah. I'm curious, you mentioned that you had played these shorts at festivals all over the country, and so people kind of knew who you were. How do you stay in touch with those people? Did you go to festivals and try and collect email addresses? Like, what does that actually look like? How do you actually notify those people that have seen your shorts, or how do you stay in contact with them?
Actually, that's a good point. You know, a lot of people always tell us, actually, I met a lot of, really kind, nice people, and I'm always humbled by the experience that wind up saying, I'm really interested in what you guys are doing. You should add me to your mailing list. And as we've been going along, we've been keeping a very strong, consistent mailing list, and we've been mailing them on every single, on all the accomplishments, and various things we do, so to keep them in the loop about things. Yeah. And that probably wound up being one of the most powerful promotional things that we've done, because people always know what we're up to. I mean, if we're at an event or something, people will come up to us and say, "Oh, you guys are doing so great." And we sit there and say, "Wow, thank God, we have a great mailing list." I mean, that's really the core of it. But beyond that, we also have a very strong social media as well, which is almost like it's like a whole other thing too. We have a YouTube channel called Film Valor. That's on YouTube. We have about 3,000 subscribers and 200,000 worldwide views. So we also have that social media exposure as well. That Adam and I have built Film Valor from the ground up, and that was in the days after the depths, when we were looking to, start to brand the company into something new. So I really think that's what it is. And, it's sort of that, that concept of, I saw your last thing, I want to help you with your next thing, is really the main, I think that's really always how it seems to work. Yeah. There's sort of a faith in what happened already, and I believe you can do it again, and I think you could do it better even. So that's people, I think that's really how it's built.
Perfect. So let's dig into your latest film, Sunset. Maybe to start out, you guys can give us just a quick logline or pitch. What is that film all about?
Yeah. Originally, Sunset was a short film, and it still had, the two characters were played by Barbara Blyer and Liam Mitchell. It was really about an older couple surviving a nuclear war or a nuclear explosion. And it came to me because I was thinking, you see all these end of the world movies, and it's usually the young, couple or the young, kid, making it through, and then, the older people die or whatever, and it's like passing the torch in a time of tragedy. And I felt like saying, well, what happens to, the older people, or the ones who can't leave their home, or the ones who have no one? What about their story of, of their last, moments together? Yeah. And I figured that, if someone who is older and wiser, who's been through so much, is now facing the fear of death not on their terms. And so we started off with the short, and eventually we decided to make it a full feature. And we worked with a couple actors before, and we knew that in order to do this as a feature, we would want them. And so we started writing the characters with the actors in mind. Right?
Yes. Yeah, just to go off the tail of that, I think one of the most interesting things about Sunset is the fact that we had the ability to sort of almost reevaluate the concept in general, which was that we had this short that we were proud of, but we were able to take that, not only expand it. What's interesting about Sunset is that's not where the story starts. It's actually where the story ends. So we worked backwards and said, what would the 48 hours prior to this look like? And thought of characters based on actors we knew in a lot of ways. And that's how their characters developed, which I think is very unique. We've never done that before. and it just seems to be unique in general. Most people come up to us and say, you guys wrote for people, and these characters feel so, like they're real and everything else. And I really believe that's because of the fact that we knew who we wanted, and we wrote for them. So that's I think that's definitely a unique element.
Yeah. So let's talk about the collaboration on this. Maybe you can kind of just describe how your collaboration worked. You mentioned Skype. I guess you had another writing partner on The Depths and you used that. But I'm just always curious to kind of hear how people work together, what tools they use, and just how collaboration works among two different people.
So, yeah, I think what we always do is we already had the short film, and we took that dialogue and that concept and really just froze it in time and said to ourselves, what would 48 hours prior to this look like? As we started developing that, there became, I think actually the most intriguing thing for me from the beginning was the fact that this was not my idea. This was not my concept. And I jumped at it as soon as Adam said it. And that was such a great thing as a filmmaker, as somebody who typically has to, is charged with the task of directing and writing something, because the fact that I knew I wanted to see that as an audience member, which is it's a better place to start in almost always. Because then you're starting on the right foot with the question that, what I think the most important question of writing a script in general is, what do I want to see in that process? What would I want to see? So it sort of almost seems selfish, I feel like, always, but it's like, I would love to see this. And, that certainly opened up the entire door to me of like what I felt that process would be. So I think we just, we really, interesting part, since your focus is screenplay, I think there was a lot of different elements that maybe we've actually not really talked to anyone about, which is the fact that it was difficult to think of a structure for something like this, because you're not talking about a protagonist who's going on a journey. You're not really talking about those kinds of things, and you can't rely on that type of thing for something that's based on this ensemble piece. So it became people versus environment type situation where we suddenly had to build on their characters reacting to something, but not only that, build on how they respond to each other and what their perspective is of the situation and why it's unique. So the plot started to become, based on that discussion, and it was very challenging, I would say, to find the format of the script and to build the structure of it. Once I think we discovered what their choices would be and what their struggles would be throughout the script, I think that's when the writing became very fluid. And then we were able to write dialogue based on that and everything else. And we wrote it very quickly, actually. But, that outline phase was very challenging. And I think we went through about 6 or 7 different total versions of the entire story until we realized that it wasn't going to work with a single protagonist. It had to be multiple characters.
And so as you're developing this outline, are you guys both in the same room? Are you doing it via email, via Skype? Are you just, one of you is just writing it up and then sending it to the other one for notes? What does that actually look like, the actual collaboration?
Usually, for Sunset, this is what it just came up with. It's like, hey, I got an idea for doing this and this. And, if Jameson likes it or not, he'll, put a short story together. And we'll talk about characters, how many we want, And the biggest challenge the biggest challenge that I think that we like and that we pay a lot to is the choices the characters make.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the core of, and that's where a lot of time is and a lot of, revising goes into, because we literally, he'll write out the script and we'll just sit on the couch, make a cup of coffee and go through the whole thing. And, and we'll just say, look, I don't agree with this choice that, they're making. And it's totally, what's the word? It's totally fair. Every input is valid. It's important
and considered. Yeah,
and considered. And
yeah.
I think that's the thing that makes us successful with it, is that we have a good friendship and a good communication skills between each other.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, actually, to your point or to your question, was that we definitely make sure we're on the same page before proceeding with something. So we will sit down together in the same space and look at every element of the story. You know, we don't necessarily sit and talk about lines because if the motivation is there, I feel like we're almost already on the same page. That's at least the way we've always worked it out. So, you know, then we'll go back in our own spaces. I'll sit down and maybe write some dialogue, you know, and we'll figure it out. But we've already agreed upon the choices, the themes, the structure, the characters, and I think we then both have a sense of, okay, this character shouldn't act this way, you know, they're going to act this way, so therefore they're going to make this choice. So we always have that stuff totally laid out to the point that then we're just assessing, you know, the dialogue and the flow of each individual scene, etc. But we'll usually read it as one entirely structured script, you know, after we get through the outline phase and everything else. So we really sort of hammer those things down and then get into, you know, all the little things, you know.
And even, you know, sometimes, you know, when Jamison's at work, he'll call me and say, hey, I'm thinking about changing this because yada yada yada, and I'll do the same. So pretty much, you know, whether any time of day, you know, we just have an open line to each other to say, you know, to just talk, and that's a good.
You know, that's a great point that Adam brings up as well, because not only do we always do that, where we suddenly, you know, there's sort of an epiphany of some level of like, oh my God, it had to be this way the entire time, you know, like, you know, somebody realized that, oh, okay, and then we'll try to address that. You know, the other thing on this script too that I'm, you know, Adam's bringing back to me as well is that not only did we, you know, we all collaborated, myself and Adam, of course, in this team, but we also brought two of the other actors into it as well. We brought both Liam and Barbara, who play the leads in Sunset, or, you know, basically two of the leads. We brought them into the process as well by showing them the structure of the outline and saying, what do you guys think? And some of those, I think some of the stronger character twists came from Liam Mitchell and Barbara Blyer, who play Henry and Patricia, and they gave us, you know, oh, you know what would be interesting is if you made one of the characters reveal this at some point, and then there would be another idea. You know, I think Henry needs to have tools here to do this, or they should have a discussion of this concept. And a lot of those things were just based on what they were reading in the structure, but it was also based on their own life. You know, they're really married in real life, those two. You know, so it was based on their own personal experiences, also what they would do in the situation. So we started to work in, like, you know, these beautiful little things that everybody put input into the script, into the fabric of what we already had, until we felt, you know, there's enough twisting here that we can keep we can keep the audience engaged. So that was another thing we did. We really opened up the doors to say, like, anybody that has an idea, let's hear everything we can, and we try to always be that way, but even more so on Sunset. And it was really to our benefit to bring the actors into it. They gave us some great character turnarounds and everything else, some great little twists.
I'm curious, are there ever those moments where you both have strong views, but they're opposite? You know, Adam thinks it should go one way, Jamison thinks it should go the opposite direction. And how do you ultimately mediate those issues where you both feel strongly, but those opinions are maybe the opposite?
Yeah, no, there have been, I can remember some times where, like, you know, I felt strongly about a choice that, or a direction, you know, the story was going, or any story that we've done was going. And I think the thing is like, I think the thing is we both think alike, because the way Jamison could, in a sense, not just reassure me that it's a good choice, but explain to me that it's a good choice. I mean, I could be stewing, you know, in anger just because I'm like, no, I can't see it. And then, but then he just knows what to say. He knows the choices and decisions why the character is doing this, and definitely, you know, he's really thinking about what's best for the story, because that's what it comes down to. It's not, you're not going to always be right with the story, especially with, you know, when you're dealing, you know, with, you know, two creators. It's, you know, you're going to butt heads. So I mean, but I think the key to making a successful story is learning to you know, slip, you know, go on the brakes a little bit, and, you know, trust your friend, trust your writer, and just go with it.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. I also think, yeah, Adam and I do have a strong collaboration. And yeah, I guess there definitely has been times where maybe we don't see something the same way. I think oftentimes we just let that process develop, because I feel like almost any time that's happened, we wind up finding either a middle ground or there's an understanding on one person's part that it needs to be this way or something like that. I think what's interesting about the both of us creatively is I feel like Adam has great instincts about things, and I would almost call them, I don't think this is a bad thing, it's a good thing. They're almost like blind instincts, in the sense that he understands something without even maybe fully coming to a realization about it, which is great, because I don't think that's necessarily something I have. I will sit there and think about something for 4 days, and of course I've come to a conclusion, but the conclusion is bulletproof. You know what I mean? So there's a difference there. But what I appreciate about his instincts is that they're very much on the money, and sometimes he can picture things that I don't picture and then re-explain them to me, like, oh, well, obviously thematically it seems like this. So there's a sort of I think there's also sort of the fact that sometimes I can overcomplicate a story beat because I'm thinking about the many different elements to it. And that's that simplification, number one, but also the instincts of knowing how to creatively take it, which I think is based on Adam's experience with movies in general. I think that helps a lot because he's just seen so many of them. It's true. Yes. He brings up movies all the time. I'm like, when did he see this movie? No, yeah, but which is great. So he has those instincts as well. I think one of my so I'd say that's definitely one of his strong suits. He has good instincts, which you can't teach someone. I don't think you can't ever teach someone that. But I like to think that on the other end of that, or different to that, is that I have the ability to think out the motivations, or to I guess explain them. But maybe I could sort of flesh something out with the logic of the situation, which I think I think of to death, but that I am good at, and I understand, I can then come to weird conclusions that way of, oh, wow, it has to be like this, but I think that's because of a level of obsession of getting that thing right that for some reason is bothering me. So it's a different kind of instincts, I feel like.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Let's talk about the production. So you guys wrote this script. At some point you're happy with it. You're ready to go. What were those first steps to actually raising the money and getting this thing greenlit? Did you take it out to producers, sort of the typical thing where you went to maybe some experienced producers that could raise money? Did you just go straight and try and raise the money yourself? Maybe you can talk about that process a little bit.
So unlike the depths is a very slow and painful process, I guess, as it is always, I feel like. But Sunset was completely night and day from that, totally different. We had established ourselves already with the depths, and we had established ourselves with Film Valor, and there was a sense of who we were. So we said to ourselves, out there in the world, so we said to ourselves, let's do what we couldn't do on the depths. Let's try to go for a crowdfunding campaign and see how we can do. Mm-hmm. And that actually wound up being very successful. Our original, and I'll go into budgets here because I think this movie is a movie where budget's important because of what we did it on and everything else.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, as a producer you should be. But yeah, no, our original budget was $18,000, and we wound up raising about 7 to 8 on crowdfunding. And we wound up doing the entire movie for about $9,500.
Wow!
So a movie about nuclear war that's pretty insane.
With all
with SAG actors, shot on a red camera as well.
Huh.
So with drone shots, 4K drone shots and shooting and everything else. I mean, just like extremely aggressive. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the other crazy thing about it too, which I'm not even getting into, there was only about 4 people on the crew. I did the sound myself, so I was both the director and the sound, and Adam did the slate, and we had a cinematographer and 1 gaffer. That was our entire crew. So there was more actors than crew most of the time. So that was very unique, but it was the only production model that would make this movie. Mm-hmm. So we realized, if we're going to make this is a movie about people. And we were most attracted to that, so this was the right way to do that, and not make it a spectacle film, but make it about people's relationships to each other. And we in some ways we got lucky. I mean, there's some special effects work in the movie that Nick Petronero helped us get access to, and he brought his Red camera on. It was the new Red Raven cinema camera. Nick's an excellent cinematographer. We had a great gaffer as well, and that was really how we put this thing together. And people were very generous in crowdfunding us. I mean, there was people that watched The Depths and said, that was a fantastic movie. Next time you guys make a movie, we're gonna help you out. We don't care what it is or when. And on a budget that was this small, and of course we wound up adjusting from 18,000 to half of that, really half that. But that was the way to do it. And sometimes you got to look at yourself hard and say, you know what, I'm going to really be in I'm going to struggle, but if I want to make my movie, this is how I'm going to do it. Yeah. I also edited the movie as well. So we really, and sound designed it. I mean, so we really made it totally in-house. And I think it looks very high quality for what we did.
Yeah.
So that's just years of experience.
And just in broad strokes, can you break down where you spent the $9,000? Like, where did that money actually go?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Adam and myself were, we did the movie. We weren't paid. So most of that, I would say a lot of that went to actors. Yeah. None of it was spent on location.
Was it like the camera, maybe insurance for the camera?
We did some various things. Like we're dealing with SAG. The salaries still weren't much, but that was a large portion.
Nice.
I think there was just various elements.
I mean, imagine you bought some food, some
yeah, the food we did feed them, and I'd like to say we fed them pretty well.
Yes, that is a key.
And our locations were very cheap, or to nothing actually. It was pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of where else we distilled it to without looking at anything in front of me right now. But really, that's what it was about. We put everything we had on screen. We had a little bit of a festival budget. There wasn't much. I mean, I edited myself, so we also, that was really And we got the drone for free. Actually, we got a 4K drone for free. Somebody did us a favor through Nick, our cinematographer. So, yeah.
I noticed on your IMDb page, on the pictures, you had your movie The Depths and then also your movie Sunset at the Manhattan Film Festival. And I'm just curious if you could talk about that a little bit. I'm actually going through the process of submitting my own movie to film festivals, not having a lot of success. So any tips you have about just festivals in general, and how to pick ones that are potentially a good fit for your film?
I'd love to go into this because in a more positive light, I'll say this. I think there are really great festivals out there that do care about your movie, but we definitely have the same experience all the time. The problem with general submitting is that there's just too many submissions nowadays. It's way overcrowded. I mean, if you do 30, we had a movie, we did like 30 submissions. We got into like the last couple, So, I mean, it's just very tough, and you wind up using a lot of money on that, which we did not do this time. We kept it more local and to things that we knew and stuff like that. Let's talk about Manhattan Film Festival though. Manhattan Film Festival is a great film festival, and the guy that runs it, his name is Philip Nelson, and I really respect what he does because I think it's not that it's a problematic trend, but I think it's hard when you have 20,000 submissions, whatever, 14,000 submissions going to Sundance on feature films alone, whatever it is, whatever that figure is, to sift through all of that. But what I like about what Philip Nelson does in Manhattan is that he picks movies that are not going to these other festivals. These are movies that are made from somebody somewhere in a little town in New Jersey, like us, and he goes by his gut. And that's how we got The Depths in. We were getting a lot of turn downs, but we got The Depths in, and then we won Best Dramatic Feature Film last year with The Depths, and it's just insane how that happens. But, you sit there and say, we know we have a great movie. It's not getting in anywhere. There's too many submissions out there is what we chalk that up to. It's not right to point fingers at anything really specifically, and but there's a lot of submissions nowadays. But then we came back again, and we won Best Dramatic Feature Film again. With Sunset, which we were shocked by again. But it was really an honor that they did that, and I think they just started to recognize our work, and I think that's really what it was about. They saw the movie and they liked it.
And do you think that there is some reciprocal? I mean, you got to know him through the depths, and so then when your second movie comes through, he kind of already knows you guys and knows your work. Do you think that gives you a leg up?
Yeah, it does. And the funny thing for us, though, let me define that. I think what's good about that situation is, Philip Nelson. Through dealing with him, of course, from Manhattan, it does change the game a little bit because you know him from the year before and the year prior, and he actually pared down his film festival. But because of how much he appreciated our work, he was already curious what we were doing next. So that's, I think, on the simplest level, that's what it was. I think we said to ourselves, there's no way we're going to win an award this year because I think just politically that's something that he couldn't do. Yeah. So that was interesting because, we don't really know him. We just know him. We know him as this guy that runs this great festival, Yeah. So it's not like we knew him prior to the depths at all. Actually, we just did blind submission. So yeah, it does change it a little bit, but I think we were shocked. We were shocked as anybody that we went up there and got an award for Sunset as well. I mean, and he was just, we were very humbled by that and honored. I mean, he just said, you guys turned around another movie, and I think it was, you did great. So we were shocked. We were shocked as anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. So how can people see Sunset? Do you know what your release schedule is going to be like?
Yes, it's going to be July 3rd.
Okay.
So July 3rd, it's going to be on Amazon. It's going to go to iTunes. It opens with those Fandango now. It's also going to be, it should be on Xbox as well. We'll see about Sony or PlayStation. That's a different thing. And we'll also be on DVD. They should start selling us through the, some of the more major retailers as well, or, like Barnes & Noble and maybe, those various ones soon. From there, they start doing the DVD after that and everything else as well. So but it's really going to be available on those main ones on July 3rd, which we're very excited about. And that's through Random Media, Sony and The Orchard.
Yeah, perfect. Well, congratulations on all that. So what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? Twitter, Facebook, a website, blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, I'll round up for the show notes.
Yeah, the best way to see what we're doing is just check out our YouTube channel, Film Valor, and check out our website, Film Valor Media, as well. And you could be every Friday we have something new to show you guys, and sometimes we just talk about what our productions are going through, what stories we're looking to create, and new tips. So it's every Friday at Film Valor on YouTube.
Perfect. Well, as I said, I'll grab that stuff and I'll put those in the show notes so people can click over to it. Adam and Jamison, this has been a great interview. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk with me.
Thank you. It's been an honor. It really has been.
Thank you.
And you have a great site and everything else. I want to make sure I say that. I really like what you're doing.
Perfect. Thank you. So I wish you luck with this film, and next time you're done your next film, let me know.
Thank you.
Will do.
Perfect.
Definitely.
Sounds good. Talk to you later.
A quick plug for the SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get a high-quality professional evaluation on your screenplay. When you buy our 3-pack, you get evaluations at just $67 per script for feature films and just $55 for teleplays. All the readers have professional experience reading for studios, production companies, contests, and agencies. You can read a short bio on each reader on our website, and you can pick the reader who you think is the best fit for your script. Turnaround time is usually just a few days, but rarely more than a week. The readers will evaluate your script on 6 key factors: concept, character, structure, marketability, tone, and overall craft, which includes formatting, spelling, and grammar. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend, which should help you roughly understand where your script might rank if you were to submit it to a production company or agency. We can provide an analysis on features or television scripts. We also do proofreading without any analysis. We will also look at a treatment or outline and give you the same analysis on it. So if you're looking to vet some of your project ideas, this is a great way to do it. We will also write your logline and synopsis for you. You can add this logline and synopsis writing service to an analysis, or you can simply purchase this service as a standalone product. As a bonus, if your screenplay gets a recommend or a consider from one of our readers, you get to list the screenplay in the SYS Select database, which is a database for producers to find screenplays and a big part of our SYS Select program. Producers are in the database searching for material on a daily basis, so it's another great way to get your material in front of them. As a further bonus, if your script gets a recommend from one of our readers, your screenplay will get included in our monthly Best Of newsletter. Each month we send out a newsletter that highlights the best screenplays that have come through our script analysis service. This is a monthly newsletter that goes out to our list of over 400 producers who are actively looking for material. So again, this is another great way to get your material out there. So if you want a professional evaluation of your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing writer-director Ryan Belgart, who just did a film called The Jurassic Games. Ryan is a filmmaker living and working in Oklahoma, so it's another great success story about a guy who's far from Los Angeles. We talk about his career running his production company in Oklahoma and how he has been able to use that experience to produce The Jurassic Games, which is actually his third feature film. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. To wrap things up, I just want to touch on a few things from today's interview with Jamison and Adam. I especially liked how they talked about these student films that they did and how they really tried to be somewhat strategic about those films. They entered them into festivals. They didn't just look at them as exercises in school. They actually looked at them as, potentially a first segue into a career as filmmakers. Thinking those things through, it's a smart thing to do. The more angles you can play, whether it be a low budget film, low budget feature film, or a short film, or whatever you're working on, the more angles you can play, just the more chances you have. And it's really all about giving yourself as many chances as possible. And again, taking them as an example, by doing a thriller short film, a superhero short film, as they did, first off, it allows them to learn what they're good at. It allows them to practice that genre. But if the film turns out pretty well, it also becomes a calling card. I mean, they might now be able to go write a superhero script, and they want to produce it, they want to direct it. They then have the first thing, the people that are going to give them and fund this thing is say, well, have you ever done anything like this? What can we see you've actually done? They say, yeah, we've done a whole bunch of feature films. None of them are superhero feature films, but we did do this superhero short film, and they can bring that out and show it. Again, assuming that it turned out pretty well. And it's going to add a little bit of credibility as they go down the road. And again, they can use these short films as their careers move along. They can use them. If they want to do a thriller, same thing. So it's smart to really think these things through as much as possible beforehand, because again, it just gives you more angles to play. By spending a little extra time at the beginning of the process, it can really, really double, triple, even quadruple the potential impact that something like this can have on your career. Another big takeaway for me, and this is really just so important to listen to, is this, these guys are just willing to go out and do the work, and it can be done. It's not easy. It's not simple. It's not going to happen overnight, but it can happen. I mean, and these guys are living proof of that. You may be listening to this thing thinking, yeah, but I don't want to do a low budget art house indie drama, and that's totally fine. This type of film might not be interesting to you, but with each film that they finish, it gives them another chance. Again, just exactly what I'm talking about, sort of being strategic with those short films. Doing these low budget feature films, it's going to give them a resume. Not only are they getting better with each project, they have something that they can show people. They have something that can move their careers down just a little bit further down the line. Again, and that's so important on the screenwriting level. Again, I understand you might not be wanting to do low budget indie dramas. That's fine. On the screenwriting level, I would say it's about consistently writing new material. Again, every screenplay that you finish gives you another chance at finding success. It's another screenplay you can send out to contests and might be able to get some placement in contests. It's another screenplay you can send to agents and managers, and they might like it. It gives you another
potential way of introducing yourself to producers. You can send it to them. They might like it. And with each finished project, each screenplay that you finish, again, it just gives you another potential way of getting yourself moving your career down the line. And I'll just, give you kind of an example from my own career. One of the things that I found interesting is when I've optioned scripts to producers, so often for a variety of reasons, those projects don't necessarily take off, and I will then try and show some of my other scripts to those producers. And so often throughout my career, it has not worked out that way. Like, for whatever reason, I write a script, the producer reads it, and just they love that script, and nothing else I've written do they like. And it just, taste is a very nuanced thing. You can't predict it. You don't know necessarily what people are going to like. And so again, by having lots and lots of scripts to send out, you just give yourself a better chance for finding that match. And and the reason I use my own example to sort of illustrate this is that there's always this sort of advice. Well, we'll just write a great script, and what's great to one person may not be great to another person, and that's a part of this too. And you've not only got to write a script that someone likes, but you've also got to find that person that actually likes it. And again, the more scripts you have, if you start to build your own resume, you start to write a lot of scripts and send them out, enter contests, and use other services like my own SYS services, Inktip, the Blacklist. Using these services, you're getting out there, you're networking with people, you're meeting producers. And, they may not like this project, they may not like that project, but they may just like that one project that nobody else liked for whatever reason. And that might be the thing that they option, and that then they ultimately are able to sell and give you a credit on. And again, it's just, some of it is a numbers game. And I don't want to push this too far. The scripts have to be good, and you can't just churn these things out, every weekend, write a new script, and they're just complete garbage. That's not going to work either. So it is a balancing act. The quality obviously has to be there. But by the same token, I hear from a lot of writers that they've been working on the same script for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and I just worry you're just limiting your chances. I mean, you've just got to find that one producer who loves that one project, and that's a very, very difficult thing to have. But if you have 10 scripts that you're pursuing, it gives you 10 times the option. You then have 10 times the chance of finding that one producer who likes that one script, because you've got many, many, many scripts that you're sending out. And the other piece to this, and it kind of relates to this whole sort of segment where I'm basically just saying, be proactive, be efficient, and really get a lot of material out there. I get emails so often from people saying things like, oh, I've written a great screenplay. I know it could be a blockbuster. Can you help me sell it? And so often I just feel like the big issue is, number one, they may not have written a script that's nearly as good as they think. That's obviously a problem. But the big issue is that they don't want to do the work. They just want to, write out one screenplay, send it out to someone like myself in just this misguided notion that I can then somehow sell it easily because it's so great, and then boom, I'll just send them a check for $1 million. And it just doesn't work that way. Sometimes it does, and that's part of the problem. Occasionally it does work that way. Someone gets plucked out of obscurity, they become the latest Hollywood sensation. These stories are celebrated, so people think that this is like a common occurrence. But so often success in Hollywood comes after many, many years of slow, steady work. I would really urge you, the people that you admire, the people that you like, go back and look up their careers. And very few of them start out writing blockbuster movies. Just almost everybody, the vast majority of the people, they start out slowly. Maybe if they're a big feature film writer, they start out doing some really low budget television work, 20 years ago, and slowly work their way up to feature film, A-list feature film writer. I really encourage you to go to IMDb, look up the people that you admire, the people whose career you want to emulate, and try and come up with a template. Look at how they did it and try and come up with a template for yourself. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.